Let's talk about how to pass the NatWest video interview. What's up guys, it's Mike from Job Ready English. Welcome to our new studio. Welcome to our new Pass the Interview video about the banking giant NatWest. Today we're going to be talking about NatWest, what you can expect from their recruitment process, most common questions asked in their interview and how to answer them, and also other questions that we came across that we found really interesting, which we answer in a rapid fire round. As ever, if you want to give yourself the best possible chance of passing your NatWest video interview, make sure you check out the NatWest Pass the Interview pack down in the description below. So let's get started. In terms of NatWest's process, candidates reported that the process took about 2 months. Initially, there was an online application, online tests. For the interviews, candidates said that it was mainly step-by-step competency-based questions. There was not many technical questions in one round of interviews. And then most people then went on to have a final interview. So let's talk about the 7 most common questions that were asked in the NatWest video interview. These are questions that were most commonly asked to candidates based upon our research from publicly available sources from the past 6 months. The first question is, why NatWest? As ever, if you want an in-depth answer to how to answer this question on a free worksheet, then make sure you click the card up in the top right-hand corner. So when talking about why do you want to work for this company, it's really important to make sure that your answers are specific and not generic. So just today I've been working with a client to get him prepared for an interview at a professional services company. When I listened to his answer, though it sounded really good, it could have really been said for any of the professional services company. So for example, when you're trying to pick out some facts, and we don't know the timings for this interview, so we're going to assume that you get 2 minutes to answer and 1 minute to think about your answer. So that's 5 facts. Now these 5 facts, you shouldn't be able to say this about any other company. You can only specifically say this about NatWest. And to be even better, to make sure that this doesn't just turn into a shopping list of facts, I always suggest that 1 or 2 of those facts would be something that's personally relatable to you. So for these facts, you could pick finances, revenue, employee numbers, departments, news, projects, corporate social responsibility. The list kind of goes on and on. Now when you're researching a company, it shouldn't take you any longer than 15 minutes. And to be honest, for most companies, they have that information available on About Us, history, or their financial report. For me, if somebody really doesn't put the 15 minutes in to research the company, then they kind of deserve to not pass the interview, because it shows a certain element of carelessness, if I'm honest. Question 2, why this role? Again, this is such a common question. If you want an in-depth video about how to answer this question and a free worksheet, make sure you click the card up in the top right-hand corner. Now, when talking about why this role, we really want to split this into 2 parts. The first part is going to be, what would you do? So the first minute of your answer, you really just explain what you would do in this job. The second part of your answer is going to be, what skills do you have that make you good for this job? So make sure that you have a copy of the job description to hand, where they will lay out your responsibilities and also the skills that are required for the job. If you can't find a good job description for the job that you're applying for at NatWest, then just take the name of the job and just look for job description. I often like to use prospects.ac.uk, but there are lots of other great companies out there who will have more in-depth job descriptions. Now, when you're talking about the skills that are needed for you to be good at this job, just remember that you want to give skill plus experience equals good, right? So if you say, well, I'm really good at Excel, you want to prove that with a certain element of experience, because I studied it during my course, because it was actually something that I was examined on during my qualification that I took, whatever it is, because otherwise a skill is just a skill and really it's just an opinion. So make sure that you put that into your answer. Question number 3, what is your approach to risk like? Now, this is quite a common question for banking, maybe more slanted towards risk management, finance, or internal audit. But talking about people's approach to risk, whether that be talking about front office, middle office, or back office, is really just kind of asking you, well, will you just go all in without having the facts? Are you cautious? Do you try and get additional sources of information? When is enough information gathered that you feel like that you can make a decision? What is your sort of tendency for basically making a decision where it seems relatively undetermined what the result is going to be? And I think really the safe answer to this question is to say, well, first of all, I make sure that I do my homework. Is this an area of expertise that I can really comment on? Do I need to ask for help? Do I need to go and outsource and seek additional sources of information? Is there anybody who I can model and I can look back on and think, well, how did they do it? And then improve upon that to make sure that I've given myself the best possible chance, quoting Warren Buffett, to really just minimize the downside or minimize the potential loss that this decision may involve. Question number 4, tell us about a time that you worked in a team. Now you want to use STAR for this: situation, task, action, result. The really important thing to remember about STAR is, number 1, be specific. So often when I hear answers based upon STAR, they'll say, well, there was a time when I was at a university and I was doing a project and we had to do this. And my response to that is, where were you? What year was this in? What module were you studying for? Specifics paint a story. And this is really quite important. So sometimes, but rarely, people can be too detailed in their answers. Most of the time what I tend to find is that it's actually in the opposite direction. It's too vague, it's too general, and I don't really get a clear understanding of the situation and the task. Now when it comes to action, we really want to emphasize what are good teamwork skills. So that could be communication, negotiation, conflict resolution, resource management, being open and honest, having the ability to creatively solve problems. The list goes on and on. And you can easily just find good teamwork skills on Google. This isn't something that's particularly difficult to do. But the emphasis, 70% of your answers should be emphasized on the action part of what you are doing. This is really the most important thing. Another common mistake that I tend to find with STAR questions is that people will spend too much time talking about everybody else and not enough time talking about themselves and what they did. Question number 5, tell me about a time where you solved a difficult situation under pressure. Solving a difficult situation under pressure, which is something that all of us kind of have to come across, particularly in a workplace situation where basically we thought we had a week to do something and now we have a day, or something has changed, or there has been a variable outside of our control which has changed. Now always remember, when talking about your work, always remember there is an ordering in terms of what are the right types of experience to use, or the best types of experience. So if you're interviewing for a job, use work experience. If you don't have work experience, you can use extracurricular activities, clubs and societies, or volunteering, and after that you can use academic. It doesn't mean that academic is not good for you to use, particularly if you're a graduate. It just means that obviously we want the closest possible example to what we're basically being interviewed to do. So if we can use work experience, and use the work experience. So really describe the pressure, what was the deadline, what was the variable that changed, and what was the process that you had to go through. A lot of times what will change is expectations or time. That's my experience of listening to answers about this question. So the time that we had changed, or the expectations have changed because the client has changed, the data has changed, the brief or the remit for the project has changed. So just outline how that was difficult and how you adjust, which in most cases is just we worked harder, we did more, we called on extra people to come in and help us. Question number 6, what could the bank do better? So this is definitely a question that demands some research, whether that be around anti-money laundering, risky financial products, places and countries of operation. There are many different ways to answer this, but certainly one to look into, as well as question 7, tell me about a recent piece of business news. For both of these questions, one of the most common mistakes that I tend to find with candidates who are applying to work in banking, investment banking, or financial services in general is that they have no preparation for commercial awareness questions. As a bare minimum, just really simply, if you're watching this and you think, I don't know anything about business news, if you just check into BBC Business News once a week, it will give you a very basic and rough idea about what's going on in business in the UK. I'd say for most people, unless you're applying for front office, it's really not necessary for you to watch Bloomberg, CNBC, or read the Financial Times every day. Of course, if you enjoy it, then you're really not going to struggle with this question. What we're really looking for is to cohesively answer in a very simple way. These are complex concepts, but really when you're talking about a piece of business news, what are the facts? What is your opinion on this in conclusion? The same thing for how can the bank improve. If you only had 2 minutes to answer this question, you probably pick out 2 things. I like this rule of like 1 thing, 1 minute, to pick those things out. And then really what you'd be looking to do is just to explain that in a very simple fashion. So here are 4 other questions we came across which we found interesting. Why are you a good fit for the role? This is exactly the same as why this role. So there's really nothing too different tends to catch people out very often. How do you introduce yourself to co-workers? This is just tell me about yourself, maybe with a slight modification of it, not sounding too weird and too generic. Describe what the job role consists of. So this is really just you having a good understanding of the job description. And tell me about a time when you received excellent customer service. For me, I'm not sure about you guys, excellent customer service is where I can really see that somebody has gone way above and beyond what is expected. My expectations being a British person are really quite low. Our customer service is well known for being not that good. So it's where somebody has listened to me, they've cared about me, they've been highly communicative, and they've probably over-delivered. The most recent one that I can think about is our email service provider, who transferred all of our emails and digital assets over to a new email provider, and then they also sent us a box of goodies as well, just as a thank you for us joining them. And that really blew me away. What does excellent customer service mean? I rave about them. Whenever anyone talks to me about who's a good email service to use, I name ConvertKit and say that they're brilliant, and I am truly converted. Guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Let us know what you thought. How can we improve? What other videos would you like us to make? Down in the comments below. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I wish you the best of luck. See you later.